Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Breaking Points. Emily, great to see you.
Thanks for having me here, Krystal.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're like a whole part of this thing now, so I don't really have to welcome you in. You're just, you're fully integrated at this point.
We've been doing so many fun host mix-ups lately, though. It's been a lot of it's been really interesting and fun.
Yeah, I think people are enjoying the different dynamics. I'm enjoying the different dynamics. So, as the audience has been asking for different combinations, so we've been delivering both intentionally and also through just life events, making it so that we need to swap days around. So,
listen,
in any
we
case,
know we're not the bro show, but we can try to compete. We'll try our best.
Tell the story about the guy that you met who was like even the ladies show.
Yeah, so shout out if you're listening. But I met a guy the other day who said, "Love Counterpoint, love Krystal, love Sagar, love Ryan. I even love the girls' show."
They even love the girls' show. Thank you. Shout out to that guy. Bunch of stuff to get into. Before I forget, if you guys are still having challenges with Spotify, just make sure you're checking your email. Premium subscribers, you should have instructions. We're going to continue to send those out and make sure everybody's good. If you're having issues, just send us an email. We'll try to get it worked out for you. Okay, so we've got updates on the trade war. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent out making some interesting comments. He's not too worried about empty shelves out there yet. So we'll get into all of that. Also, people noticing TEMU charging now an import charge. So whatever your basket is, whatever your cart is, when you go to check out, it's more than doubled because of the import charges. So a lot of fallout beginning there. We've also got results out of Canada. Liberals mounting an extraordinary comeback. And really, it does have almost everything to do with Trump, with the trade war, with the 51st state talk. So I'll break that down for you. We've got updates from Israel and also from Brooklyn. We've got Ben Smith on. He had, Emily, this fantastic scoop about these right-wing group chats, which I suspect, you must have been at least aware that these things were going on. I won't ask you to reveal whether you were inside of any of these, but some of the dynamics in there turn out to be really interesting.
No, Krystal, I was like partially offended that I did not know about this. I do know that people on the right, but I was partially like, I'm glad they're not. If the fact that they're not adding me tells me that they don't want journalists who's somewhat fair in their chat. But the right loves Signal. There's no question about it. Like I'm in a bunch of Signal chats, but nothing like I had no idea. Truly had no idea.
All right. So that's interesting. There's an incredible screenshot that came out of that one with like David Sachs throwing fit, leaving the chat. Tucker leaves the chat. A Winklevi twin leaves the chat, whatever. So apparently these things were really influential in forging some of the alliances between, the MAGA types and the tech right and some of the heterodox type quote unquote independent thinkers out there. So a lot to get into with Ben Smith. And we also are going to touch on this drama that's unfolding at 60 Minutes. Their longtime executive producer left and said, listen, I don't feel like I can be independent anymore. And this had to do with two things. One was some really actually quite strong, a little belated, but quite strong reporting with regard to Israel and Gaza. And all of their Trump coverage was coming under increasing scrutiny. So he felt like he had to leave. The Scott Pelley over at 60 Minutes gave a monologue, really calling out their parent company, Paramount. So some very interesting dynamics there. We're going to see if Ben Smith can stick around to weigh in on that because he has such a great lens on the media. So a lot of interesting things in the show this morning.
Yeah. Krystal, we should start with Scott Bessent talking about the shelves because that's what's on everybody's mind.
You get the best reviews of anyone in the administration outside the president. Your thoughts about the U.S.-China standoff right now?
Well, Brian, first of all, it's all the president, especially on the 18 important trading partners. We're doing bespoke deals, and he's going to be intimately involved in every one. 2 weeks ago, when we had the Japanese delegation come in, he started it in the Oval, and then we took them into the negotiating room. So he laid the groundwork, told them personally how important the relationship was, but also how important a fair deal for the American people is.
Currently, right now, are you worried about empty shelves? Because they say that a lot of these, the supply lines and the cargo ships are being held up. A lot of people are saying, turn it around with the tariffs this high. I don't want the product. Are you worried about empty shelves?
Not at present. We have some great retailers. I assume they pre-ordered. I think we'll see some elasticities. I think we'll see replacements. And then we will see how quickly the Chinese want to de-escalate.
Well, the word bespoke was an interesting choice in that context, Krystal. Let's put the next on Yeah,
just
deals.
before you throw to the next element, because I think some of the dynamics here are funny. So, liberals talk about sane washing Trump. And I think Scott Bessent is like the ultimate sane washer of Trump's tariff strategy and warning to everyone, because Howard Lutnick is apparently going to be on CNBC today. And they've done analyses that have found that like when Bessent's out there, the markets are relatively calm. When you get a Navarro, when you get a Lutnick, it goes a little haywire. So in any case, Bessent out there being like, I'm not worried about the empty shelves. I think Americans are going to be worried about empty shelves if they do show up, which looks increasingly likely. And we've got here up on the screen, this is the TEMU portion. And yesterday we covered Shein has hiked their prices up to like 375% on certain items. Here you can see, all right, I've got an item subtotal of $63.66. Shipping is free. Sales tax is $3.77. Import charges, $89.46. So that's the 145% tariff. So larger than the, cost of all of the goods put together, for a total of $156. So instead of paying $63, people are paying $156, and TEMU making sure, Emily, that they know where that charge is coming from.
Right. And, what's even more important, I think, by our standards, we're talking about the digital shelves here, but when people start going to Walmart, Target, grocery stores, and even, clothing retailers that you're sort of walking through looking for things like an Old Navy, that's where things are going to get particularly interesting because, like TEMU and Shein are extremely popular, no question about it. I think most Americans would probably say at the end of the day, they're not like essential to their life.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, because I think people have become accustomed to, the things you can get on TEMU and Shein are just remarkably inexpensive. And a friend of mine was also pointing out that some retailers actually, because the cost of goods from TEMU and Shein are so cheap, they will actually buy from, almost wholesale from them and then resell in stores as well. So it's not just the online experience. It's also going to relate to those shelves in Walmart and Home Depot and other places as well. So in any case, the fall is beginning. We've been covering, of course, all of the port traffic decline. We're getting to probably early May, middle of May, when you really will start to see, okay, all of the shipping that shut down when these tariffs were put into place. That's when it's really going to start to bite. And what Bessent says there is not wrong, that because there had been some level of tariff had been anticipated. So especially larger retailers that could afford it did a lot of advance ordering so that they could have more in their warehouses to be able to, lock in a lower price and be able to be more flexible and adjust when the tariffs actually came into place. Of course, no one expected the particular tariff regime that we ended up with, but they may have some flexibility in the early days. And that's what Bessent was basically saying, of like, oh, I trust our great retailers. They're going to be fine because they, probably prepared in advance. And I do think that there will probably be some of that will help to at least push the shock off somewhat into the future. And we'll see what happens with the tariffs between now and then. But, increasingly, I saw Ray Dalio saying this yesterday. We've got Jamie Dimon out now saying, even if there was a full pullback at this point, it's really kind of too late to undo a lot of the damage that's been done, which I think also relates actually to the Canada block that we're going to do, and the way that Carney is talking about this kind of irrevocable break in the relationship with the U.S. We can put A3B up on the screen here. Jamie Dimon weighing in and saying basically like a recession is kind of the best we can hope for at this point. He said, he was addressing the crowd. He said he believes the best case outcome from the trade war would be a mild recession for the U.S. economy. So that's what he's saying is the best case scenario. Ray Dalio also sounding, a pretty big warning. He put out something on Twitter yesterday saying basically it's already too late. We're going to have this massive realignment. And from here on out, it's just a question of whether that realignment is going to be executed with greater or less care. And I think we all can guess which direction we're going to be going in based on the moves of this administration thus far.
Well, we're clearly going in a bespoke direction, Krystal.
Bespoke direction.
Scott Bessent. No, I mean, I do think that's the most important, connecting it to the Carney block. I mean, he's basically saying, we'll get to this in just a moment, that this was all about the United States, that this is a permanent turning point for Canada. And he's not alone in thinking it. The rest of the world thinks it. So the question now isn't whether everything has changed and whether it's too late, though I think it's helpful to hear that sort of from the mouth of Ray Dalio and Jamie Dimon. But basically, like, can the plane be landed in a way, the optimist would say in a way that's even better than before, but to the Dimon point, can the plane be landed in a way that is as manageable as possible for most Americans? And if the best case scenario is a mild recession, they're going to have to hope that, hope is the wrong word. They're going to have to pray that the benefits that come out of this realignment that they've orchestrated and been the architects of are felt by Americans to offset the political costs of a recession, let alone the substantive costs to people's lifestyles and pocketbooks.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's just not clear to me what those benefits even are. I know various things that have been floated. In my estimation, we're going in the opposite direction of all of the, the manufacturing, the rebirth of manufacturing in America. We're going backwards, certainly on that metric. The treasury yields, that hasn't worked out the way that they thought. So, the amount of revenue we're bringing in from these tariffs is absolutely trivial at this point. Trump is out there making these wild claims about, we're going to replace the income tax with the tariff revenue. I mean, it's just a utterly ludicrous thing to say or to claim. So, I mean, that's always been the piece from the beginning, is short-term pain for long-term pain is what it appears the track that we're on, as far as I can tell at this point. And we can already see, some sectors being really hard hit. We can put this up on the screen. So we already have what appears to be CNBC is describing as a full-blown crisis for farms. And, the headline here, U.S. agriculture isn't nearing a trade war tariff crisis. It's in a full-blown crisis already, farmers say. I've been following the numbers around, China's been canceling huge amounts of orders of pork. Things like our agricultural sector had already taken a hit vis-a-vis China from previous trade war actions. And in Trump's first term, they orchestrated effectively like an ag bailout. There's some talk of that now as well, because this is it's a constituency that votes overwhelmingly for Trump. So he feels favorable to them. Much of agriculture at this point is big business. So those are the type of people as well who can get their Mar-a-Lago dinner or get a call from the White House or, throw some money at the inauguration. I know there was like a chicken company that had given like $5 million to his inauguration that was getting some perks, et cetera. So, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one group that gets another bailout.
Well, yeah, no, I think that's probably right. And this is why American farming is sort of permanently in a state of crisis. The CNBC headline makes me grin a little bit because it's, the tariffs are throwing it further into a state of crisis that American farming has been thrust into for decades. And that's part of why farmers, you go back and watch interviews that places like NBC did with farmers earlier in Trump's term. And there was like this interesting optimism. People would, reporters would come in from New York and DC with their microphones and cameras and be like, well, aren't you furious? And the farmers would say, no, we think some of this needs to happen. They probably also felt confident that they would eventually get a bailout. But Krystal, we're almost 10 years into this now, and they're probably, I shouldn't say probably, their patience is obviously wearing thin for some type of structural solution to the problems in agriculture, and that's just not coming. I mean, the administration definitely doesn't have a solution to that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, there's a big monopoly element there as well. And it's just, increasingly impossible to make it as like a small time family farmer. It's these giant agribusiness growers that dominate all of those markets. The last piece we have here is the Dallas Fed survey came out, and Joe Weisenthal tweeting about this. Apparently the numbers were pretty dire, getting to the point of like, this is supposed to be improving the landscape for manufacturing. And instead, the manufacturing survey from the Dallas Fed, the levels hit the lowest since May of 2020. That, of course, during COVID, all the comments are about tariffs and policy uncertainty, added to the list of bad soft survey data. And that gets to the point of, we're sort of in this period of suspended animation. The tariffs have been, have been put into place, but we have not really fully seen in the big metadata, the macroeconomic data, what the fallout of that is going to be. Retailers are warning about empty shelves. We're not seeing empty shelves yet. We're just starting to get these indications from TEMU and Shein of the way that prices are going up. Amazon as well. Amazon sellers are hiking prices as well. So, we're in this moment before kind of the calm before the storm. And maybe it won't be as significant as a lot of the numbers seem to indicate right now. But I don't think there's any doubt we're in for some pain here coming up as those shipments from China that would have arrived do not arrive, and retailers draw down on their stock, and we see these reverberating impacts of layoffs and just the logistics sector alone. I mean, you're talking about port workers. I saw the longshoremen put out a statement, really decrying the tariffs impact on them and their workforce. The trucking industry, which is incredibly important, especially for non-college educated men, which is another demographic that has been really supportive of Trump. Those are the areas that are really going to be hard hit early on. So I think we're all waiting to see what that impact is going to be.
Yeah. The point, actually, even the language that Weisenthal uses there about soft indicators. I mean, that's the list of soft indications about what's happening. That's what's just very hard to ignore. Even when you look at, I read the Trump administration put out a press release this morning about the benefits to the economy in the first 100 days of the Trump administration. You're reading through this long list of bullet points. And if you juxtapose it side by side with those soft indicators, the list of soft indicators that Weisenthal is pointing out and has racked up on his own, we cover them here. That I think it's even if, again, I'm saying by the most charitable interpretation of the plan here, even if taking them at their own argument, if you juxtapose those lists side by side and say we're about a month from Liberation Day now, the indicators are stacking up in a way that suggests the long-term pain is not going to be worth the short-term gain, and that I think didn't have to be the case. It speaks to the execution in this case.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.